Welcome back, fight fans. I go by the name of Vok.
And I'm Barack the Boxing Bully.
And this is the DAZN Boxing Show, home for all things boxing. So much to touch on. Canelo Alvarez, Jermell Charlo is over and done with. We'll recap the fight on what happened in Vegas and also look forward to what's next for both fighters here on the opening bell. Barack, as expected, the favorite won on Saturday night. People expected the fight to be a little bit more competitive. We all know that Jermell Charlo was moving up 2 weight classes, but still was the bigger man on fight night. But Canelo did show to be the stronger man inside that square circle with applying the pressure. He's gotten better cutting the ring off. There's so many great things I've seen in Canelo Alvarez. He'd look in better shape, sharper than he did in his last 2 outings. I'm impressed. I'm excited as to, to see what's next for Canelo, but I want to just tap into the fight a little bit, Barack. Were you a little bit surprised on how tentative Jermell Charlo was?
No, I wasn't surprised, even though I thought it was going to be more competitive. I knew, and I've been saying that, once he feels Canelo's power, he's probably going to want to box. Now, I thought he was going to still be more offensive, so I guess I was a little bit surprised. But I feel like, if you're going to, he came into this game or this particular fight humble. He came into this fight, he knew who he was fighting. He was daring to be great. I respect how he was acting afterwards. But yes, I guess I was surprised. I thought he was going to be a little bit more offensive. I wasn't concerned about who's going to be the bigger guy. It's like the world is just catching up on something I've been saying for years, that Canelo is smaller than 154-pound fighters. So the bigger guy didn't matter because the experience fighting in that division was on Canelo's side. So he's been hit by the Triple G's and the Kovalevs and the Bivals and guys that are so much bigger. There was no way I saw Charlo hurting Canelo, but I did see that Canelo was going to be able to hurt Charlo and Charlo was going to have to box.
Yeah, I noticed early in that fight, I'm not sure it was the first or second round, Canelo landed a big shot to the right, not hip, I would say it was a clean body shot. And I noticed Charlo not engaging so much
some of them
after that.
Did look like it was on a hip. I guess
right. But as I expected, a lot of those shots were thrown on purpose to the arms because, yes, Charlo had his guard high, but Canelo doesn't care. He loops that right, and he hits the arm, he hits the forearm, the bicep, and that wears you down. So, that's part of his game plan. And I noticed, I assume that Canelo might be more active in terms of throwing combinations. But what I realized with him at this point in his career is that he doesn't like to waste shots, right? He doesn't like to throw combinations just to throw them. He's the type of guy, if he lands a big shot, he'll put a flurry together to get you out of there or get you down, but he's not going to throw 3 punches in the exchanges. He wants to land that big shot, and if it's effective, he'll move forward. Sometimes I guess with certain opponents that are volume punches, that might not work unless he always finds a way to eventually land that shot, but you lose rounds like that. But because of the pressure and his defense coming in, he didn't lose any rounds, even though he wasn't throwing a lot of punches. That's what was impressive with me with Canelo Alvarez. I'm realizing that's just his style. He's gonna stalk you until he lands that big shot. So,
but that's what I was impressed with. Let's not forget these ridiculous rumors of Canelo getting extra tired after a few rounds of sparring during camp. This guy had power all the way to the 12th round, stalked Charlo the entire
Stop
fight.
Believing everything you see on the internet.
Dropped Charlo in the 7th round. I still think Charlo's a great fighter. I still think he's a great boxer. Before he became this knockout puncher with Derrick James, he was superb, sharp boxer. And he just was in there with somebody who, was very, very dangerous, and he wanted to stay clear of those shots. And his offense wasn't effective enough to keep Canelo off of him, even though he landed some shots too. He landed a few clean shots as well.
Not effective, but speaking of, I agree with you wholeheartedly about Jermell Charlo. Very talented fighter, and maybe that weight class is not for him, though he looks big. He didn't look as ripped as he normally is. You barely saw abs, so I could tell that weight was put on not in the best way. He clearly said after the fight that he wants to move back to 154, which is his natural weight classes. A lot of fights at 154, but the one that he was asking for was obviously the pound-for-pound top dog, Terrence Bud Crawford, whom on Twitter kind of, opted himself out of that fight and said that he's over Twin Charlo. He's no longer on his hit list. And these are, our quotes from Terrence Crawford on Twitter. Barack, maybe that could be all talk because he didn't look impressive, but I believe that fight can still be sold as a big fight, especially if Jermell Charlo goes down to 154 and possibly eventually fights Kassa Tszyu and wins. I think that fight still can be huge for Terrence Crawford at 154. That's a lot of time. I know he doesn't want to wait for all of that, so he's going to have to stay busy, but we all know that he wants Canelo Alvarez. As far as Jermell Charlo, I think the best thing for him, Barack, you can agree or disagree, is to go straight back to 154 and, challenge Kassa Tszyu in order to get that strap back to remain undisputed.
Well, as far as Terrence Crawford, I think that's just a little bit his savagery that he does online sometimes. I remember the times when he was saying, I don't want the Errol Spence fight anymore, but we knew what he really wanted in his heart, and I think this might be a little bit of the same. But if he's really solid on that and he's really and he really means that, I can understand that as well. Him being 36 years old, he just happens to be probably in history the only 36-year-old that's exactly the same way he was when he was 26. Maybe
exactly.
Even better. Floyd was great at 36 too, but he didn't have the power in his hands like he used to because of his hands were brittle. They would get damaged.
Stop making an excuse. Maybe he just didn't have power that Terrence Bud Crawford has. Not only because of his hands.
I'm just saying he didn't have the same power as when he was younger. He wouldn't do combinations because he didn't want to hurt his hands. So he didn't have his same power. I'm not saying the power I'm not comparing him to the Terrence Crawford power. So as far as that's concerned, I do think Bud, like you said, if Jermell goes down and becomes undisputed once again, then yeah, that's tempting. Of course, he'll probably go and fight Charlo at 154. Yeah. And I do think that's Charlo's best bet. He said it before. He fought with Canelo with us. He said, 168 is not my weight class. Yeah, he probably walks around like that. But, when you're getting in the ring and you're fighting at 170-something, it takes time to acclimate to that. You just don't go in there and fight the best of the best at that weight class. So, yes, the best thing for him is to move back down.
Kudos to him for trying, and moving up those weight classes, taking advantage of that opportunity. Now, let's move on to the face of boxing, Canelo Alvarez. Obviously, packed house in the T-Mobile Arena. And people are dying to know what's next. Remember, it's a 3-fight deal with the PBC. The fighter that people have been talking about wanting to see him against is David Benavidez. Barack, who has his hands full with Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade, and that's not an easy fight in itself. And maybe Boo Boo will eventually get that fight with Canelo Alvarez that he always wanted. And we don't know. We all saw what happened in Dallas after the Billy Joe Saunders fight in the post-fight press conference, and how Canelo felt about Boo Boo then. But listen, this is the PBC, and if they have that fight available for him, if he should beat Andrade, I think that's something that Canelo will consider. He has 2 fights left on this deal, Barack. We have Jermell Charlo, who I like that story of, hey, I beat your little brother or your smaller brother. Now I'm going to beat you. Or maybe, the flip side to that story, hey, I'm Jermell Charlo. You beat my little brother. I bet you can't beat me if he moves up to 168. So there's always that story, but I think Jermell has to win a fight before that happens. So again, I think the only thing left, or one of the few things left, is the winner out of Demetrius Andrade and David Benavidez for Canelo Alvarez.
Of course, that's the ideal matchup. First of all, I love that fight. Benavidez and Andrade, that's a great fight. That can go either way. But, the crowd has been asking for Benavidez to fight Canelo and Canelo fight Benavidez for so long now, whether even way before Benavidez fought Plant and actually deserved that fight. So, yes, that's the fight I want to see. I just think that in their plans, I've been hearing rumors that Jermell Charlo is next, and Jermell Charlo is going to fight, supposedly, Jose Benavidez Jr., who Terrence Crawford knocked out. So that is supposed to be a tune-up fight getting you ready for Canelo Alvarez.
A former 147-pounder.
Yes, if they can. And he also got beat by Danny Garcia
at 154.
Danny Garcia outclassed him, outboxed him. So, oh man, that there is no fight to get you ready for Canelo, but that's probably not the fight to get you ready for Canelo. The thing is that
hold on, Barack. I'm sorry, I can't ignore that. I can't ignore that. Is that the best fight that they could have found for Jermell Charlo? Like, seriously?
No, I mean, like I said, this is just rumors, and of course not. Obviously, that's not the best fight. But understand something. These are the same. There's people out there who's been asking for Jermell Charlo to get that Canelo fight. So fans wanted it. But now that you have these 2 years off, you're not going to just come back, you're not going to just come back and fight the best of the best, like Thurman was saying, I had 22 months off, I can't be fighting, Errol Spence, then he goes and fights Pacquiao, you know what I'm saying, and loses the close fight, so the best bet for Jermell to do, since he wasn't necessarily training hard during those times and going through personal issues is to fight somebody that he can probably beat.
Yeah, but Jose Benavidez is not the guy for me. I think there can be a more natural middleweight for that. But nevertheless, look.
I agree, especially if you're really looking to fight at 168.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, yes, he was. Benavidez was the heavyweight champ on Creed, so maybe that's what.
But this is definitely not about Jermell Charlo. It's about what's next for Canelo Alvarez, and whatever it is, it's going to be big, it's going to be huge, and it's going to be in May, Cinco de Mayo of next year. All right, that's our show for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Peace and love. Stay safe. We're out of here.